Hi there, welcome back, beautiful souls. How are you today? How are you feeling? So much has been revealed for me or come to the surface. There was all that beautiful conversation around my sister, and in this last week, all this beautiful information was coming up around my closest cousin. Now, what I wanted to bring awareness to today in this video, and perhaps in the next few videos, why do I share my life? Why do I share all of it without holding any of it back? And the reason for me is that so many times when people have shared experiences of their own and they resonated with me, like I could see, wow, it wasn't exactly the same for me, but very similar. And it creates an awareness within yourself that, this information is relevant. It means something to me. Now, the moment that always comes up for me is when I was doing this beautiful course, accelerated coaching, business accelerator, or I forget, with these gorgeous guys, Aaron Doty and Victor Odo. And in there, one of them was telling the story of his wife, and how when she was young, she has this beautiful singing voice, and she would be singing, and just one day, they were always asking her to sing because of her beautiful voice. And one day she looks across the room and sees her sister and how upset her sister is that she doesn't have the same beautiful gift. And in listening to her sharing that story, of him sharing that story, which she shared originally at one of their retreats or something, he was just passing on the story. It woke up something in me that I hadn't even noticed before, that I had been through something very similar with my sister, being so successful at school, and I loved reading and all of that. And every time I'd come home with this beautiful report card full of A's, and all these beautiful, remarks from the teachers of how good I was at school and all the rest of it. My sister would just feel like, because she didn't like reading and she didn't like school, but she was always being compared. My mum was always like, why can't you be more like her? And I just remember I can't remember at what point, but there came a moment where I realized how much that was hurting her. And so I started to dim my light, because at the time when I was so successful at school and I was doing so well, it felt amazing within myself. It felt so good, to be so good at something naturally, and I just loved doing it. But at the same time, I realized she didn't have the same gifts, the same skills. Her gifts are different. We all have our own innate gifts to start with. And so every time she was being compared, it hurt her. I could feel that energetically, that it was hurting her. It was like saying that she wasn't good enough because she wasn't the same, So that brought up that in me, that I hadn't realized that I had this fear of success, because to me, success meant that you hurt your loved ones. When you succeed, it hurts the people that you love, the people in your life. So that's what I took away from that. And that came from someone sharing an experience that they had had. And so I've learned from that and many others that when they share, sometimes it resonates with us. It brings things up in us of, it wasn't exactly the same. Like mine wasn't, from my singing, that it made her feel bad that she didn't have the same singing voice, but it was the success. It had to do with that, being successful, and how being successful sometimes hurts those around us that we love. And so we diminish ourselves, we make ourselves smaller because we don't want to hurt those people around us. That's just that example. But I've known, I think, from the start that sharing my experiences has that effect. That you may see yourself in any of these given moments, and in that, be able to release that it's not true, that it's not real. It's not real that when we're successful, it hurts others. That's their path, that's up to them how they want to take on that. That if they're watching you be successful, they have two options. They can either be happy for you that you're successful and, sit in that joy of, oh, I love that you're so successful. Or they can take on envy, jealousy, take on that they're not good enough because they're not that. They don't have those gifts. They don't have those skills. And I learned with time that those skills can be acquired. Some of us are more naturally gifted in that way. But look, from teaching piano for so long, for over 30 years now, I've been teaching piano. And I've seen that, yes, I've had children come through that are naturally gifted. They can do amazing things on the piano. And yet I've seen others come through that struggle with their practice. They struggle to learn. It doesn't come that naturally to them. But it doesn't take away the joy of when they master a piece, when they can finally play it after all those hours of practice. Both, whether they're naturally talented or not, require practice. They're not going to sit and on the first go get it perfectly right. I still don't sit and on my first go get it perfectly correct, note for note. I still fumble through when it's a new piece that I'm not familiar with. There's still notes that I'm going to miss or not hit them correctly, or the rhythm, or until I've practiced it enough. So I know you can, acquire the skills. The reason so many people are not good at school is because they're just not interested in the topics. Not everyone loves maths. Not everyone loves English. Not everyone loves geography. Not everyone loves history. And so we're thrown into all these subjects. But not all of us have a passion for those subjects. We're just not interested. And how difficult is it to learn something when you're just not interested in it? You probably know for yourself. If you're forced to learn something, like for me, history was so dry, so boring. For me, it was like, it's already done. Why are we learning this? It's done. All the dates that we had to memorize for exams, all the events. For me, that was so boring. I had no interest. I loved maths. I'd light up whenever we did maths or science or chemistry or any of those subjects. I loved those subjects. Even geography. I would sit in the geography lessons and I would be so bored. But I learned how to do really well at exams. I knew the methods. I knew how to study for them and just blitz them. Didn't matter if I liked the subject or not. But I know how hard it is to study for a subject that I just don't like. I'm just not interested in it, and yet I'm surrounded by people that are fascinated with history. Fascinated. They love it so much. They could talk about it for hours. So to me, this is the reason so many times that we just don't do well at school. We're just not interested in the subjects. Not interested. They don't light us up. And you know your path. You know it straight away because they're the things that do light you up. They're the things that you get excited about. They're the things that you could talk about or think about for hours and you never get bored. You would think about it even longer if you could and do more work on it if you could. So, my beautiful beings, it's not that you're not good at school. You weren't good at school or at studying. It's just that you weren't interested in those subjects. You weren't interested. That's not what you came here to learn. It's not what your soul came here for. Didn't want anything to do with any of that, maybe. Not even maths, not even any of it was interesting to you. So I know, because when my daughter was born, she had no interest in reading. You know, I thought I was waiting all this time to have this beautiful little being to relive all of that because I loved school so much. And she didn't like school. She didn't like reading. And I hit the wall. I was like, okay, what do I do now? Because she's not me. And I can't force her, you know, to be something that she's not. And so I had to work around it, you know, and tell her that, well, maybe for her it's about interaction with other children, you know, making friendships, studying human behavior, you know, all of that side of school, which I had absolutely no interest in. For me, lunchtime meant time in the library for more study, you know. I had no interest in having friends, in playing, in any of that. For me, that was, I didn't see the purpose of it, or I would get anything out of it. I couldn't learn anything from it. At the time, this was my thinking as a child. I couldn't learn about this world. These beings that were my age, they couldn't tell me where the clouds came from, or why it rains, or why is the sky blue. They couldn't tell me anything. Everything I wanted to know was in books. And so I was drawn to books from quite little. Even just, you know, reading books like The Hobbit or The Lord of the Rings, or just being taken on these incredible journeys in my mind. I just loved books so much. And then I got to an age, so that was my childhood, but then I got to an age where the books they were falling short. They were leaving me empty of what I was looking for. And then I got to a stage where I started to yearn for spiritual understanding. Why are we here? What am I doing here? What's the point? And so I stumbled across the Conversations with God books, Louise Hay, Wayne Dyer, these beautiful, magnificent beings, you know, that were bringing all this beautiful awareness into the world. And my reading shifted. And then it got to a point where I had my first awakening and I started writing, and then it was no longer about reading. There was nothing left for me to read. They were now giving me all the information to bring forward, to bring through. I was receiving direct downloads to share with the world, just like they had. You know, everything they did, Conversations with God books, all the books I had been reading, was just spirit working through them to bring this information into the world. It's all spirit. It's all spirit. I am spirit, allowing spirit to work through me, to work its beautiful magic, to bring all this beautiful information to you. So know in your heart, it's not about, you know, there are a lot of videos in the earliest sets of videos, probably the first 100. There's a lot of talk about my mum. The first book, Your Past is a Gift, is a lot about my mum. And the reason for that is to bring awareness to you in your early childhood of your dominant relationship, of that relationship, you know, bringing forward all that information for you. It's not about me looking at my mum like she's a monster, or she's this, or she's that, or I'm the victim. If you're looking at it from that point of view, then you're missing the whole purpose of all of these beautiful videos. Because it was never about that. It was never about me sitting here being the victim and my mum was the perpetrator and poor me, what I went through, the trauma, the abuse, Yes, it was hard, but I chose that experience. On a soul level, I chose it. How can I know what it is if I haven't gone through it in my human experience? I chose it. I chose all of it. And so did you. But it is through those experiences that you can see yourself. Oh, yes, I see that in me. It resonates. That you can then start to bring light to it, just like I did. Bring light into that darkness. That's the whole point of all of this sharing. And in the next few videos, there is so much beautiful information coming through that it's blown my mind this week. Why certain things happened, the way they happened, and every time I go through it and I think about it now this week, I get tingles, and I'm getting them now. I can't wait to get to the next video to share it. So know in your heart, these videos are not about us staying in the victim mode. They're actually the opposite of that. It's about knowing in your heart that all of it was chosen by you, by your soul. Even if you don't remember it, sit with yourself today. Use this video to sit with yourself today and allow that truth to speak to your heart. Ask your soul that question. Did we choose this? And then the most beautiful question. Why? Why did we choose this? If you notice in almost all of the videos, there's always the question, what was I meant to gain from this experience? This experience happened for you. I spent almost trying to think how many, at least 40 to 45 years in victim mode. This happened to me. I had no power over it. It all happened to me. And once I had my awakening, the truth, it happened for me. It happened that I may gain this knowledge from this beautiful experience. So in every moment, no matter what you've been through, no matter what's happened, no matter what is happening, what am I meant to gain from this beautiful experience? And wait till you hear the incredible, incredible knowledge that I've gained in this last week. It'll blow your mind because it blew mine. I love you guys. Remember to click like and subscribe so you don't miss any of the messages. Love you. Bye for now.